Hey everybody, what's up? Pam's gonna lead us off. We're Team HappMe.
Yeah.
So.
This is Joe. I'm Pam.
Hey guys. Phil.
Amazing.
And Siddhant.
Hi Phil.
Okay. Great. All right, that went well. All right, so HappMe is the name of our app. So basically, the concept is, all right, so music is an emotional thing, right? It evokes a lot of emotion from you. So what's worse if you're feeling really, really sad and a sad music comes on? It's horrible. You cry, you lose your stuff at your cubicle. It's a really bad thing. So we decided, hey, why don't we do a thing where we can sort of analyze where you're at, and if you're kind of in a bad mood, angry, sad, we're going to give you some music, some Giphies, all these things to make your day a little bit better. And if you're already happy, well, we're just going to keep that going and say, yay, congratulations, you're a happy person. So this is how we did it. This is, I don't know, let me do.
Yeah,
So,
I'll jump into
Yeah.
it really quick. So to just touch back on that, it's basically, it's content, it's suggestive content based on your state of mind, and I learned a lot in this project, actually. There's a study where this gentleman, I forgot his name right now, but there's like two major parameters that you can use. They're called valence and arousal. So if someone has like a low valence, it means that they're very calm. And if they're like very low arousal is calm. Very low valence is like serene, and it's basically like there's a quadrant. So there's an XY relationship between these two things. So I explored that relationship to determine if someone is at a very high mood level, that can be good and it can be bad. And they might require an adjustment or they might not. So basically the way that it works is we ask two very simple questions. So we ask people to identify themselves with the group that describes how they are currently feeling. So the choice that you have is either nervous, stressed, excited, or alert, or depressed, bored, relaxed, or serene. The second question is elated, happy, content or calm, upset, tense, sad, or fatigue. So you basically answer your version that you identify with from these two things. You submit. So this next layer of logic is actually, it's a control question to determine whether the person is actually holistically really in that state of being, or whether there's something we can do to kind of balance them out and level them. So like if you're feeling hyperactive, woohoo, I am, Red Bull, sorry, I had to put it down. So it basically sends back content that's geared towards your mood. So this answering hyperactively, I don't know if there's sound on here. Yeah. So this is an example of like something that's cool, but you can tell it kind of has like a little more of a mellow tone to it. This Giphy's pretty interesting, actually.
we did not plan that for our presentation.
So
totally random.
We're going to refresh it, and it returns random content based on your mood. So basically, let's just give it another go. So now we're going to say we are depressed, bored, relaxed, or serene, and upset, tense, sad, or fatigued. Do you normally feel this way? Let's just say yes. Submit.
Okay, so we're still working out the kinks.
No. It's actually, it's supposed to return this way because this is the lowest. The logic that I use is that this is the lowest arousal and valence that one could have. And if you assume that someone normally feels that way, it probably means that they're consistently a very calm, serene person, and that's how they exist to be. So they're probably okay with music like this. If we answered it differently and said, let's say we are the same thing, upset, tense, sad, or fatigued, depressed, bored, relaxed, or serene, and then we say we don't normally feel this way, video's a little slow. Okay. Bugs, I guess.
That darn Wi-Fi again.
It should be returning. I don't know why it's not. No. Okay. See, so it's saying like if you're not really normally feeling that way, it gives you something like a little bit more uplifting. So that's that. We jump into the code. Actually, I'm going to let Pam explain the front end first.
Okay, well, a little bit as he's pulling it up. The front end, we just tried to keep it very simple, and we think of like, wanted to pick like the colors, the fonts, everything that makes you feel happy. So we think like light colors, blue, and then looking at like beaches and sunshine and bubbles. These are all like really happy things. So that's why we went with that theme. And then it was just very basic. We used Materialize, and then we did it where everything was put into one HTML page to make it very easy. And then what we did, or what, okay, where the J? Okay, so we put that on the HTML, and then a very simple thing in jQuery, we put each page inside like one single div, like happy page, sad page, index, quiz. And then we just did, we set those in jQuery to display.
To dynamically manipulate the DOM.
Yes. Okay. And replace with, okay. All right. Set it to display none, and then you just put a simple on-click event where you replace the one div with the other div on the page. And it's very, very easy, and it makes it look very snazzy. That's it.
Okay. And now we want to take a look at the JavaScript, correct?
Yeah. And then the part that we are still working on, which Phil is going to explain, is where we get a quote, which will also be dictated by whatever mood you're in and by whatever number the variables give you when you click the different options.
Right, but just to basically ride on Joe's glory, he's the one who put together the music to match mood part. And I mean, this code really is impressive what he put together, and it's the documentation and everything, retrieving the information and getting a YouTube video. It was really impressive. My part, I'm sure you all are familiar with this simple code. Basically, two arrays, a quote app called They Said It, which has themes, inspire, life, funny, etc. And then good old Giphy, which we're familiar with, also had themes. And the idea is to, using math, generating a number from each, and kind of like a roulette, just pick one randomly from the top, like a funny quote, and a courage image, video, and put them together. So it's spontaneous, whichever one they choose. And so in version 2, where it says, here's a quote for you, that's what that'll present. We talked to the client, they're fine with what we gave them for now. And they're looking, we had to go to production, but they'll be ready, they'll be okay with that in version 2.
They're looking forward to it.
Better.
I'm just going to run through the JavaScript logic really quick. Okay, so in app.js, just to run through what we did, basically we set up the document. Just to get a nice dynamic background, we use Backstretch, which is a really cool plugin. Thank you, Ahmed. So we register the first event listener to basically, when we click that first begin button, it dynamically changes the div to open up the quiz page, which is where we go into our first layer of questions. We grab the value and we grab the value of the checkboxes and store them in the two variables arousal and valence. And basically this block of code here, this executes our first layer of mood logic. Basically it assigns a value and manipulates the DOM to the second layer. So basically what I did here is I ran a bunch of if statements and else ifs to grab that first layer. So this is where you see, like, if somebody's a 9-9, we bring in this control question to see if they feel hyperactive. If this control question is answered a certain way, we update the values of arousal and valence. And here is this is the event listener for the control logic. So basically kind of the same thing. The only difference is we had to grab these values again and have them all three together. And basically we start again with all three values where you can see the control. So here we have high, high, and high, 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 low, so on and so forth. And then basically we just, manage the flow of the document by calling these functions here and passing them the arousal and valence values, also showing the results page. The APIs that we used are artist info for Musicovery, which is a metadata API for music. And basically from that, we were able to grab these things that I explained earlier, track valence and arousal. So we measured them on a scale of 100,000 to 900,000. And basically what I did is dynamically pass the single digit into the URLs, leaving the zeros in there. So we dynamically updated the single digit. This user decade here is something we plan to install in the future. Basically, it's a very simple logic where we can determine someone's age to further hone in on the kind of music that we should deliver them. This is our first AJAX call, and this is done actually to the Musicovery API, which is basically, according to those parameters, returning us a random artist name and an artist title for the song. We then take that and we pass it into the YouTube data API, where we're grabbing a YouTube video ID. So we get the video ID out of that. Then we create the player in HTML. We do a YouTube embed for the player, which with an autoplay. Kind of the same sort of, well, actually very different logic, sorry, for the Giphy API. But yeah, that's about all, folks. Sorry. Should I keep going or no? Yeah? So for the Giphy API, we're basically passing it those two variables again. We're creating a sparse array and then basically populating it in a grid style. So this runs through the array and basically populates it kind of on like an XY axis and pushes the values in and then loops through it, continues to loop through it, and where it finds a value, it passes that value to Giphy, where we can then start to build these kind of arrays down here, and according to the mood, we send a certain value to Giphy to get like a kind of Giphy that's either inline or adjusting you. Last thing we did was this is just another AJAX call to actually grab the image and manipulate and populate it to the DOM, and that's pretty much it.
Finally.
Yeah, in the end, I would like to say it was a pretty challenging exercise. We had a lot of GitHub issues, and when it came to designing and the concept, but it was a fun experience working as a team together, and we enjoyed it. So.
Cool. Any questions?
That's an awesome use of valence. Exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really cool to explore it. Like, it's the first time I ever heard of it, and I guess the challenges that I faced on the back end, I think we all faced, was it was really difficult to find a music API that kind of lets you get the kind of music that you want from the get-go. We explored a lot of different ones, and it kind of seems like they're all being bought up by the SoundClouds and the Spotifys of the world. So it was a pretty cool find. It was definitely challenging to work with. And then finding out that we had to take that and use YouTube twice in two different ways to return the data to get it to actually play the song. So we didn't plan on hitting all those APIs, but it was cool. It was definitely very cool. Thank you.
Your man in the back.
Really? Cool.
Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Like, it was kind of buggy up here, but it returns some pretty cool results. If you guys play with it, I think you'll find that it returns pertinent content.
Yeah. And even if you don't like it, just refresh your page and do it again. You get something new. So
Anything else?
You hard-coded the 80s. That's why stuff got weird.
Yeah. Well, you know me, bro.
What would be your approach in tackling the bugs? If you were sort of
So it was a really difficult challenge for me to deal with a three-dimensional like avenue as is. But I guess I would start to work with like all those like in terms of refining the code and iterating on it. I would probably start working on like all the if-else statements, because I definitely found like, you know, what is it? Do not repeat yourself. So I found myself repeating myself a lot. So I think maybe I could probably lean it out a little bit, and that might get rid of some of the bugs. That's probably where I'd start. If I told you I had a plan beyond that, I'd be lying to you.
Anyone else have any ideas on what they would sort of push to get 2 more weeks? What would you tackle? Specifically, like code base?
If we had 2 more weeks to develop it, well, I would certainly tackle trying to get the quote Giphy interaction working, and you know, basically follow a pattern, work at it for a couple hours. If I'm stuck, reach out to one of the TAs for that little nudge, see some light, then work till you come to another tunnel and they show you the light again. Just enough, you know, they don't want to lay it out like a turkey platter. It's enough so that you learn, but also you're not spinning in circles. Yeah.
What, I got a question. Well, so what challenges did you guys run into? It looks like you guys are using more APIs.
Yeah, I mean, like
Coordinating them.
before, definitely scoping it out was definitely an issue. You know, Anthony made a contribution. Also, he helped us out with the embed on the project. So, you know, we faced challenges definitely hitting all those different APIs and getting them to work together. I think the main challenge really was establishing a value across the board for an emotional range that would make sense to hit a lot of different APIs in the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think also we had a lot of challenges with GitHub. Regardless of how many times we followed the steps correctly, it still wanted to give us problems. And are you raising your hand? Or are you holding your head?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
He's
okay.
sympathizing.
He's yawning.
Yeah. And then I would just say something that I would change in the future, I guess in terms of bugs, is to work on the last page, have the background change also dynamically to fit the mood that you're presenting, because this one is just confetti, but that doesn't apply to everybody. So
Right. Very
that's
true.
that.
So as far as using Giphy, did you find that like, since it's a happiness app, right? If someone's coming to it and it's sad or maybe has triggers,
Right.
Giphy can be very
Sarcastic.
triggering.
Okay.
Is there a way that you keep out like?
So the way, I mean, I'm not a super Giphy person, and actually I think the first time I even opened up the site was when we were in this class building the app. But now that you say that, it's like I know that now. But the way that we're hitting the API right now is like pretty limited. It's based on like 2 pretty limited search parameters. So it's not like totally dynamically hitting it. So it's generating like some randomness, but not totally random. So we kind of have it under control, and being that you said that, we'd probably want to keep it that way, I think. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Oh,
Did you guys account for the Giphy not returning something? Will it always return something? Like, if there's something
we-
false to the case.
I didn't run into it not returning something, but so on the video side, the valence and arousal scale is actually from 0 to 1 million. So I did run into some issues when I was running valence at those lower and upper extremities. So I toned it down from like 100,000 to 9. That's why you saw the 900,000. And in that range on the video, it started always returning results. But we didn't run into that problem with Giphy yet.
So, I definitely like the fact that you guys like use maybe get some science behind it and everything. Definitely is awesome. I mean, that's always cool. Great energy from everybody, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It was just making sure like you guys had accounted for something that.
Cool.
I think your presentation style is Just go in confidently. I actually especially liked it when you were saying this isn't actually a right video. It was like, oh, you're right. Like if the person is persistently feeling that way, and that will be the song. So that was a cool surprise. It shows how your app actually pulls out information unconventional, and that's the pseudoscience behind whatever. That's kind of the market. So that's awesome.
Thank you. That's why I didn't sleep last night. Actually, was to literally figure out that second layer because the arousal and valence had basically a direct relationship up until the beginnings of last night. So I really wanted to figure out that extra layer to make it seem like intuitive, or to actually to make it